Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to decode a psychological hack that is so powerful, it can literally get people to agree to the absolutely unthinkable. I'm talking about a mental mechanism that forces a tiny, almost unnoticeable yes to snowball into a massive, life altering commitment. And honestly, the wildest part of all this whole thing? You've probably already fallen for it. Let's dive in and look at exactly how this works.
Okay, I want you to picture this scenario. A woman is just standing on her front porch, right? And a friendly person walks up with a clipboard asking for something incredibly simple, just a signature on a tiny petition. It takes maybe 5 seconds. Now, she isn't getting paid to do this. She isn't being threatened or coerced in any way. She happily signs the paper, smiles, and just goes back inside. Seems like a totally normal, harmless interaction, right? Well, here's where the mystery kicks in, because just 3 days later, that exact same woman is physically hauling a giant, incredibly ugly, billboard-sized sign right onto her own front lawn. And again, nobody paid her to do this, nobody forced her, she hadn't lost her mind, she was essentially hacked. This is a very real phenomenon, and by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how this invisible string gets pulled. Section 1, the 1966 Stanford study, proving the trick. You see, this isn't just some wild theory. Scientists actually proved it, and let me tell you, the numbers we're about to look at are absolutely insane. To understand what happened to that woman, we have to travel back to a quiet California neighborhood in the 1960s. In 1966, Stanford researchers Jonathan Friedman and Scott Fraser conducted a now famous study. So, on day one, they knocked on doors and asked homeowners for something super tiny, to just put a small, unintrusive sign in their window that simply read, "Be a safe driver." It was a tiny ask, right? And almost everyone said yes. No big deal. But 2 weeks later, different researchers showed up to those exact same houses. And this time they asked for something huge, a massive, ugly billboard-sized sign to be placed right on their front lawn. Now, the results brilliantly illustrate the sheer power of this trick. Think about it. For most neighborhoods, if you just knock on a door out of nowhere and ask someone to put a giant billboard on their lawn, they are going to slam the door in your face. We call that the cold ask. And sure enough, fewer than 20% of people agreed to it. But for the primed group, the people who had already agreed to that tiny window sign 2 weeks earlier, over 76% of them said yes to the giant billboard. Their compliance absolutely skyrocketed. No way, right? Section 2, why your brain concedes, the domino effect. Now, here's the part that should actually scare you a little bit. Why on earth does our brain do this? Why does one tiny yes completely override our common sense when the big, ridiculous request comes knocking? Well, it all comes down to a very specific psychological vulnerability. You see, your brain absolutely hates inconsistency. When you say yes to something small, a tiny yes domino basically tips over in your mind, and it actually alters how you view yourself. This is what psychologists call self-perception theory. You aren't just complying with a random request anymore. Your brain is actively watching your own behavior and updating your identity to match it. And the really fascinating part about all this is that internal shift. Before the small ask, you might just be thinking, hey, I'm just being polite. But after you sign that petition or put up that tiny sign, your brain secretly updates your internal monologue to, I am the kind of person who helps. So when that massive request comes around 2 weeks later, saying no would mean admitting you were kind of lying to yourself the first time. It would completely shatter that brand new identity. To your brain, saying no actually feels way worse than ruining your own front lawn.
Section 3. It gets weirder. The cross-topic transfer. Wait, it gets weirder. You might be thinking, okay, sure, safe driving sign to safe driving billboard, I guess that makes sense. But follow-up studies discovered a twist that makes this psychological hack infinitely more adaptable. The requests don't even have to be related. No, seriously. Follow-up research proved that if you say yes to a completely random survey about soap today, you are significantly more likely to say yes to a stranger asking for a massive favor, like using your personal phone tomorrow. It hits the exact same switch in your brain. It's not about the specific topic at all, guys. It is entirely about your brain adapting the overarching identity of a person who says yes.
Section 4, modern-day mind hacks, where this hits you. Companies are doing this to you right now, and I'll show you exactly where. The Stanford researchers might have discovered this by knocking on doors back in 1966, but today's modern marketers and tech companies, they have perfected it into a digital art form. First, you get a free trial before the subscription. Second, a prompt to just enter your email before the massive upsell hits you. Third, a salesperson asking for just 5 minutes of your time. Fourth, a charity asking you to just sign a petition before, yep, you guessed it. Step 5, asking for a huge donation. None of this is an accident. Every single one of these is a massive red flag. It is the exact same Stanford compliance funnel, specifically disguised to tip that first tiny domino in your mind. Section 5. Ethical self-hacking. Building better habits. But hey, it's not all bad news. Here's how to actually flip it and use it ethically. Because once you understand the mechanics of this psychological switch, you can actually use it to hack your own life and the lives of those around you in incredibly positive ways. The crucial point here is you can use this trick to make future favors much easier. If you know you're going to need a buddy to help you move apartments next month, which we all know is a notoriously huge, super annoying ask, don't just hit them cold with it. Ask them for something tiny today. Ask to borrow a phone charger. Ask them to help you carry a single box. You are ethically planning that tiny yes domino, so when you make the bigger ask later, their brain already views them as the kind of person who helps you. And get this, you can even point this weapon directly at yourself to build better habits. Say you want to start running. Do not just wake up and tell your brain to run 5 miles. That is a massive billboard of an ask. Your brain will immediately reject it. Instead, make your only goal step 1, put on your shoes. That's your tiny window sign. Just say yes to that. Then, step 2, walk to the door. Once you say yes to the small version of yourself, becoming the big version gets exponentially easier. Section 6. The twist. Your ultimate defense mechanism. But what happens when someone is using this against you? Well, one twist completely breaks the trick, and I'm going to show you that too. Because no matter how deeply this is wired into human psychology, you can actually short-circuit the domino effect in real time. This right here is your ultimate counter move, so definitely burn this question into your memory. Whenever you feel pressured, politely cornered, or suddenly finding yourself agreeing to an upsell you really didn't want, pause and ask yourself, would I say yes to this if it were the first thing they asked? If the answer is no, then it is not truly your yes. You aren't just being helpful, it's literally just the domino talking. Recognizing that completely shatters the illusion of inconsistency. Which brings us all the way back to the woman with the ugly billboard on her lawn. She didn't lose her mind. She didn't have a sudden change of heart about her neighborhood's aesthetics. She lost her rational decision-making one tiny yes at a time. She fell victim to what psychologists now officially call the foot in the door technique. So now that you know exactly how this trick operates, you are going to start seeing it everywhere. In your inbox, at the mall, on social media, even in your own relationships. And honestly, simply seeing the trick in action is the absolute best defense you have. So I'll leave you with this. Look closely at the requests you get today. Where is someone trying to put a foot in your door right now? Keep your eyes open and stay focused.